Now we open the floor to questions. MP representative Mr. Abdul Hamid put up his hand for a question before you. Thank you, Mr. Sarah. Thank you to the podium, to the panel. I have some questions on the talk made by the panelists. Our our biggest problem are our water scarcity as well as the overpopulation are now our biggest two challenges to the Egyptian people and Egyptian government. As Mr. Tariq said, we have to alter our system of irrigation. Dr. Farouk, I've always been wondering that you sometimes show show up, but sometimes we never see you. I do Egyptian officials capitalize on your highly technical opinions on such issues as water, for example, or not? Will the consultative will do the members of the Presidential Consultative Council, Technical Consultative Council, do they consult Your Excellency on such matters for right decisions to be made or not? In fact, the corridor of development has been the centerpiece of much talk. As Dr. Abla said, we haven't some of the thoughts have never been thought about. Will, as for example, will somebody be capable of using or capitalizing on this huge area for a usufruct right for 200 years, for example, or what? We are talking about 100 years within, if compared to the age of countries or nations, is nothing. Well, I think 100 years, the period of 100 years, is not enough because we have to also deal with a terribly growing population. Sustainability of water, sustainability of water. I'd like also to say, Dr. Farouk, well, when they started with the 1.5 million fedans for growing, did you agree to the locations already opted for, already chosen by the government to start growing the 1.5 million fedans? And if the cost is too high, have you ever studied or mulled over how to grow other areas? I'd like also to ask to pose questions to Dr. Salah as well. You must have a vast knowledge of this. Do incumbent ministers draw on your vast knowledge in the area of water for before they make the own right or decisions about irrigation and crop growing? Salinated waters are so important as well. You have been living in the United States. Desalination of seawater. Will desalinating sea waters, will it always remain, will it always take an upward trend rather than a downward trend, or what? Will it always be high to desalinate sea waters? This is this of course I believe that what have you said, I believe that none of the incumbent ministers have no idea of the great things you have already told us about now. As an MP, as a member of Parliament, House of Representatives, I have always seen my fellow members as being unaware of certain things that that cannot be exploited by those MPs because they lack technical knowledge. They keep reading newspapers and so on, but they don't command, unfortunately, the necessary technical knowledge to talk about this to the government. The strategy of Egypt in the area of water and some small and other important areas for the forthcoming period. We have heard about desalinating sea waters, recycling sewage waters as well. We have been hearing about this, but this is not enough. But I've always been concerned with and upset for has been the fact that there have been no communication channels between science as you on the one hand and the ministers and even the political leadership on the other. There should have been such communication channels between them. Thank you for speaking so lengthily. Dr. Ablament, stop making more scandals. Stop making more scandals. Yes, I'm a staunch supporter. I'm a staunch supporter of the political leadership myself. I'm a staunch supporter of the political leadership, though. And I'm a policy secretary within the government bloc in Parliament. So your message is over. You brought home the message. You've brought home the message. Good morning. Good morning to you all. Good morning to you all for these. I have two small inquiries to make. As His Excellency the MP has lengthily have already spoken about something. I'd like to. I've always been I've always been wondering why the new administrative why did why did the new administrative capital has been built or is being built to the east, while the development corridor talks about the west? Dr. Farouk Al-Baz makes a rapid, swift intervention by saying that capitals across the globe, across the world, should be built on a river rather than in the desert. My second question, uh, my first question dealt with the first what's the master plan? Master plan would have told me what am I doing for something, which thing. I've already come from Toshka on Friday, last Friday. I I have already spent a lot of money, squandered a lot of money on Toshka. What has been done in Toshka. Should I deal with the zero cost or zero investment or what? Are we going? Are we going to positively exploit Toshka, or just keep it as something wasted or something on which we have squandered a lot of money, or what? The speakers don't speak into the microphone. We are collecting questions. We are collecting questions first, and then we are going to answer this question, because this hot issues as brought up by Dr. Farouk Al-Baz and other great scientists at the panel cannot be covered totally. Small time. Let's answer some of these questions. Let's answer some of these questions. Why not? Let me answer some of these questions. At the beginning, the doctor told me that someone is going to make is going to make Actually, she told me that we should be going into. She told me that someone is going to make a small comment. Actually, it has not been a small comment or brief comment. It was rather a comment which opened up new vistas or new horizons for talk, which need separate or independent lectures. Talking about which minister will be responsible for doing that. Also, people. The important thing is that people have been hearing in Egypt about, and you have the book. Before Sisi came to power, he called me. He was still a senior officer in the army. He told me that he tabled the corridor of development within his electoral platform, and he told me this straight line, basic straight line from Alamein to Sudan. He asked me about the length, how long was the boundary, the line drawn from Al Alamein down to the boundaries of Sudan. I said it's 1,200 kilometers. He said, suppose that I can do it within a year. I told him that you have to set up utilities because no gasoline station, no petrol station, no facilities on the road. Nobody would be able to get there. What I have been saying, well, what I've been saying because my colleague has been saying that which minister will be responsible. I think what I've said has nothing to do with the government at all. It should be done, should be set up only by an ad hoc institution which should be working under regulations and laws passed by the government. And this institution, planned institution or body, maybe taking for example 10 years or more, and will have nothing to do at all with the government, with of course this in a planned institution will be doing its work according to, of course, the regulations, government passed regulation, but it should be depending for its finance on investments. You will be paying money within the first 10 years, but and the project will only start to pay off only after the 10 years has elapsed. After Dr. Ibrahim Kamil told me about the idea, I looked at the pond and said, "Oh yes, we should think about our development corridor." We have been working with the vice president, with one company, with one corporation. I sat with the company officials at lunch, and we kept talking about the development corridor. We started talking at lunch, and we kept talking about it until we dined, until we had dinner together. So we kept talking for some 5 or 6 hours about this, and I've been talking, and the man was jotted down my remarks. And then he told me, "Can you come to Washington to tell the Vice Presidential Council about this project on so and so day?" So I arranged my affairs. I got there. The the R7 vice presidents of Pictel. It was Pictel Corporation. They have already conducted, they have already conducted their own feasibility studies. At the time, in the year 1985, it would cost $6 or $7 billion in the year. This was only in the year 1985. Maybe it costs more now. The the basic project will be taking 5 years for preparations, and the benefits of which will be reaped from year two, and the total cost will be $6 billion, and will be and will be paying totally, you will be repaying in more than 2 years, in little less than 2 years and a half. So, they thought of getting money from Saudi Arabia or from somewhere else to start the project. So, but it so happened that things didn't go well. The attempts have been of no avail. So we started getting a company ourselves, soliciting a company ourselves, signing up a company ourselves to get to do this project or to implement this project.
And then ministers actually had an interest when Dr. Nazif, the ex-prime minister, took over. He talked to me and asked me to visit him in his office and tell me about the development corridor. And so I asked him, what will he do? He said, give me, I'll ask a group of ministers to attend the meeting. He summoned the ministers of housing, agriculture, water, planning, and there were 7 ministers and I. We were accompanied by Dr. Faiza Abul Naga, and she was the one to be a designate supervisor of the ministers. They told me a story that said they are going to have a feasibility study in the Ministry of Planning on this project, a detailed feasibility study in Egypt. It will be done by Egyptian experts. They formed a group of geology, a group of water, etc. This study took them in the Institute of Planning of Mahmoud Sakr 3.5 years. They prepared a detailed feasibility study. Although I brought it to them in 1985 and it was only $6 billion the cost needed, but their study said they needed $23 billion, and they said 10 years is correct, and the remaining actually figures were correct, but because we did it in 2005 or 2007, after they said that it would cost 23 billion US dollars. This means that there has been a detailed study of the project by Egyptian experts with the assistance of people from abroad, of course. But they still had a conception that it's the government or it's the ministers who will do it. Um, but this is actually a defective concept because a minister spends only 2 or 3 years in office. And sometimes a minister occupies the ministerial portfolio only for 2 or 3 months. Even when the ministers, they even ministers, even good ministers, sometimes they don't know the story of his portfolio until he leaves. In the scientific research ministry, a minister said, asked me, I told him about a research center that was an affiliate of his ministry, and he asked me, "Where is this research center?" So I took him with me, and we came down from the 7th floor down to the 3rd floor that he has never visited. It's a possible story that a minister knows nothing about his ministry. So I'm talking about bureaucracy. The government will never ever implement the development corridor. And if the presidency left that, it's the presidency actually does some implement some projects, but with some army officers who have guns in their pockets. But nobody will discuss. The government is not discussing. The government is not. Don't wait for anything from the government because the government in its present form is morbid. It's a morbid government. If you want to do a great project like this, it must be done alone. You are government too. I told you about it too much. Dr. Beltagi was helping us in Sinai when we were mapping Sinai, and there is a valley called Wadi Watir with very fertile soil, with too much underground water, where organic crops can be cultivated there. He's a rash, actually a rash driver, and never take a car with him and let him drive. Such a project can never be given to the government. There must be a special board. They will make much money, but on a long-term basis. The government only lays regulations, and this is enough. This is a very important point. Who will take over? Who will be responsible for implementing the manage the development corridor? Maximum of one more question is possible. Geologist Tariq Qadir from the Egyptian Geological Survey Department. Dr. Farouk, you talked about the development corridor. Now, it's a big project. It's in the Western Desert. We can do some parallel projects nationwide. Sinai is a dear part of Egypt. We can also start a parallel project, and you are a professor in this field, and you know Sahel al-Qa or Qa plateau in Sinai. It's a plain, actually. It's a very good plain, which is good, an arable area. Besides the mineral resources, this is the first part of the question. The second part in the desert, in the eastern desert, south of Berenice, especially, particularly Marsa Hamira area, it goes down to Baramut. It's a very good plain, which is 15-kilometer wide and 120-kilometer long. So it's an excellent area. Besides, it's parallel to the Red Sea coast, so there can be places for ports. Can they actually be implemented as parallel? When you are talking about Sahel Sina, for example, or Tina Plain, because it is close to the fire rocks, it will the water will be in such cracks. حسب al-Kafrawi dug wells there. In these cracks, they found water, and it was good. In the eastern desert, it's a different story. But I would like to say again, I'll talk about it later. We can talk, yes, about this when I visit you in the Geological Survey Department. Dr. Abda, it's clear. Time is running out. Thank you. There is a point. There are so many points that have not been covered. I would like to comment on your statement that there must be an ad hoc board, but it must be within the state plan, because there is a state, and the plan must include incentives that help this board to work again. It is not the story of a ministry, and this is the reason for our utter failure, because we always depend on the personality of the minister as if he were a scientist. But there are institutions and there is a master plan. A minister comes and implements a part of the plan. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I totally agree with you, because I have never said that an institution can just appear out of the blues. No, it must be part of the master plan of the state. There are two items to be highlighted before I finish. I would like to thank you very much for your acceptance of the invitation. This is an honor. Thank you for the pin that you offered me. Dr. Farouk gave me this pin. It's a rocket, because you are a rocket. I was actually because it was actually in my suit, which I liked it, but because you are a rocket, I give it to you. A rocket in Egyptian Arabic means a very beautiful woman. And in order to invite you, I started to talk to you 6 months ago, I'm agreeing with you now. In October 2019, you are cordially invited to a big conference called Hub Africa on innovation and on entrepreneurship that makes Egypt take its place in Africa, which is its natural place. And I hope that I'll accept the invitation right now because this development corridor has its continuity. It should be from Alexandria to Cape Town in order to be the entrance and the exit of Africa. 19th and 20th of October 2019 is the conference of Africa as an investment hub. I'm just protocol, Andrew. Thank you very much, dear attendees. I hope we'd meet again on more specific topics such as an outcome of our discussions. And Dr. Abla, please. Um, and you heard the word rocket and you lost your concentration. And then no concentration at all. I mean, we have to select some points of the outcome of today, and we organize uh, one on to one basis studies. We have three themes that we shall concentrate on next year on research. One of them is related to entrepreneurship. The second one is related to have Egypt as a logistic center. It includes so many items. We shall actually discuss such detailed topics next year. Thank you very much, and hope to see you again. Thank you.